In February 2025, the sands of Egypt shared a secret they'd kept for thousands of years: the long-lost tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose. This was a huge discovery. It was the first New Kingdom royal tomb found since Howard Carter discovered Tutankhamun's tomb way back in 1922. So, people who study ancient history all over the world were very excited. A team from Britain and Egypt, led by Piers Litherland from Cambridge University, were in charge of the digging. They worked very carefully in the tough landscape near Thebes. They started in 2022, but it took over 12 years of searching before they found it. Mr. Litherland said finding it was a very emotional moment, a big reward for all their hard work. Gap 2S. Pharaoh Thutmose II was king a long time ago, from around 1493 to 1479 BCE. He's often not as famous as other kings from the 18th dynasty. He was the son of Thutmose I and married Hatshepsut, his half-sister. She later became Pharaoh herself. Finding his tomb gives us a special chance to think again about how important he was and understand more about how things were in his time. This new discovery finally shows us where the pharaoh was first buried. This gives us new ideas about his time as king and how he was buried. They found Thutmose II tomb in a place called Wadi C4. It's a quiet spot in the western valleys of the Theban necropolis, which is the ancient burial ground of Thebes near Luxor. People sometimes call this area the Valley of the Monkey Tombs. Others have looked there before, but finding such an important king's tomb here means it might have more secrets than we thought. Professor Aidan Dodson thinks Thutmose II might have chosen this place before the Valley of the Kings became the main spot for pharaohs to be buried. Finding Thutmose II's tomb in Wadi C4 could mean that this area was thought of as a good place for kings from the early 18th dynasty to have their tombs. This discovery makes the known special burial areas of Thebes even bigger. It suggests that the way kings were buried might have been more complicated than we used to believe. The great work by the New Kingdom Research Foundation and Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities in Wadi C4 shows how important it is to keep exploring the huge burial grounds at Thebes. Thutmose II became king of Egypt around 1493 BCE. This was during the busy time of the 18th dynasty. He was the son of Pharaoh Thutmose I and a lady named Mutnofret. To make sure he could be king, he married his half-sister Hatshepsut. Even though he was royal, Thutmose II didn't rule for very long, only about 13 or 14 years. We don't have as many records from his time as we do for his father or for Hatshepsut, who came after him. We know he ordered some buildings to be made and led an army into Nubia at least once. Gap 2S. When he died, his young son, Thutmose III, became king. At first, Hatshepsut helped him rule, but then she said she was pharaoh. Finding his tomb, which Hatshepsut looked after, makes us think more about their relationship and how he was treated after he died. People who study ancient Egypt have talked for a long time about what Thutmose II was like as a king. Some say he wasn't a very important king because he didn't rule for long, and there isn't much proof he did big things. Others think that maybe Hatshepsut, or later Thutmose III, didn't want people to remember him much. When experts looked at his mummy, they found he had marks on his skin. This might mean he had a disease that made his rule shorter. Hatshepsut did give him a proper burial and a special temple for his funeral. This suggests she didn't forget about him. Gap 2S. The place where his tomb is, in Wadi C4, makes us wonder about how important he was and how he was treated after he died. Inside Thutmose II's tomb, even though it was damaged by floods a long time ago, some things still show it was meant for a king. The ceiling of the tomb was painted a deep blue, like the night sky with golden stars. This showed the duat, which is what the ancient Egyptians called the underworld. The people digging found pieces of special holy writing on the walls. Some of it was from the Book of the Amduat. This book was like a guide for the dead king. It told him about his journey through the 12 hours of the night. Having the Amduat there is a sure sign that it was a king's burial from that time. These things made the tomb a powerful, special place. They were meant to help the king have a good journey into the afterlife. The pictures and writing tell us a lot about what people believed and how they buried their kings in the early 18th dynasty. The idea that the pharaoh would join with the sun god Ra was very important to the Egyptian kings. Even a pharaoh who wasn't very famous, like Thutmose II, was given all the special things he needed to make sure he would live on as a god. Some of the most important things found in Thutmose II's tomb were several jars made of alabaster. Alabaster is a beautiful stone that you can almost see through. These jars hold very important clues about history. Even though floods damaged the tomb, these jars were still there. They give us real proof about the people connected to the burial. Written on these jars are the names of Pharaoh Thutmose II and his wife Hatshepsut. Finding Thutmose II's name on the jars clearly linked the tomb to him. This solved a mystery about where he was first buried that had lasted for hundreds of years. Hatshepsut's name being there shows she was involved in getting things ready for her husband's funeral. These jars are the first items from a funeral that we know for sure belonged to Thutmose II, found anywhere in the world. Alabaster was often used for pots that held special oils, which were needed for funeral ceremonies. This helps us believe that Hatshepsut made sure Thutmose II had a proper burial fit for a pharaoh. Thutmose II's tomb seems to be a bit smaller than the tombs of other pharaohs from the New Kingdom. How big and fancy a pharaoh's tomb was often showed how long and successful their rule was. The fact that Thutmose II's tomb is smaller might mean there wasn't as much time to prepare it. The tomb was found mostly empty of the things he was buried with. This was probably because bad floods damaged it very badly. Because the tomb was in such bad shape, it was hard at first to know who it belonged to. Gap 2S. The simple style of the tomb makes us ask questions about what happened when Thutmose II died and was buried. These questions are now what experts are trying to answer, as they try to figure out what happened back then. Finding Thutmose II's tomb in Wadi C4 could really change how we understand the early part of the 18th dynasty. This time was very important for the New Kingdom. It set up Egypt to become a great empire. The tomb gives us a definite point in history that can help us get the order of events and kings right. Seeing Hatshepsut's name on things in his tomb shows that she was definitely involved in his burial. Where the tomb is and what it looks like helps us think about her power and what she planned to do after he died. Putting Thutmose II's tomb in Wadi C4 might mean that this area was seen as a proper place for kings to be buried. This discovery makes historians look again at the stories they had about the early New Kingdom and maybe change them. Thutmose II's tomb helps us rethink the politics, religion, and personal stories of a very important time in Egyptian history. Finding Thutmose II's tomb is probably just the start of more exploring in Wadi C4. The digging is still going on, and finding a pharaoh's tomb there means the area needs a closer look. Experts think this tomb might be part of a bigger group of tombs. The team has seen a pile of rubble nearby that might be hiding another tomb. If they find more things in Wadi C4, it could tell us more about Thutmose II and what Hatshepsut decided to do in those early days. Finding Thutmose II's tomb is a big reminder of how fascinating and full of history ancient Egypt still is.